who can't make it. And let's formally start the webinar now. And I really want to thank all of you for coming. The intention here is to be informal, so if you have questions of any sort, please ask them right away. I'm going to give basically an overview by going through this complete list of app groups as we have them now for those of you that want to join, give you a sense of what we have already, and then we're going to talk about the two major groups we have going now. One is called CAS. John will talk about that. I'll talk about We. There may be other people here who want to talk about the other open groups, and then I'd like to talk with anybody who has ideas about new groups and wants to attract people to join their groups, and then we'll just continue with questions and discussion. So that's the plan for today. The app groups that we have now are listed here. I put this on our general discussion group. I added one at the bottom, which is we do have one non-ARV group. All these other groups are associated remote viewing groups. I'm assuming all of you are in the general discussion group, and I see many of you are already in some of our app groups, but you know, you may want to join another one or move around where the idea here is for everybody to get comfortable and settle in for a while doing predictions. Now, you can see the headings here. The CAS protocol groups are really listed here. John has been taking the lead on this, working very closely with Ed May, and he's going to give you details. He's on a break, but when he gets back, it's not clear if he'll want to add more people. But we have two groups here with Chris and Scott and Chris P. We have two Chris's who are looking. I believe Chris P's group is open, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't think he's with us today, so we sent one email off to him. Anyway, after you hear what John has to say, if you're interested, we'll definitely be able to place you in a CAS group. Now, you can see some do sports, some will be doing Forex. All that gets decided by the group manager, and that's where all the contacts, when you get down to the level of the specific group, this is the way you get a hold of the appropriate group manager. So that's why all the email addresses here. And this PowerPoint presentation, I will send a link out with both the webinar video information as well as this PowerPoint presentation. So you'll have access always to these email addresses. Now, another protocol is called We, and you can see we have many We groups now. Scott and I are the two general managers for those, and they involve both Forex and sports. So if you really want to do sports, actually, this is the only We sports group. And I'll be talking about We in a very brief way shortly after John talks. We have a classical binary ARV group that's doing Forex, and that's open. Igor's head of that. And then the other groups down here, there are a couple that are closed. One is solo. This person, Russ, who usually joins us, so he's probably here, chooses to work solo. And if you wanted to set up a group which works solo, that would be terrific. The point of these groups is that we keep data. You can see your data. You make formal predictions, so your data is tracked, and you become a formal part of making these predictions, which we hope will eventually support the consciousness paradigm shift. We really believe this is something big. And then if you have other techniques, Dave can't join us today, but non-ARV approaches, dowsing is one example, but at the webinar he talked about other approaches as well, and you could either join his group or you might want to start your own non-ARV group. Okay, so with that brief background, okay, Alexis, that noise was coming from you, that one. So I think I will mute you. Obviously, feel free to ask questions at any time. Just unmute yourself. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to John. And let me make you the presenter, John.
Well, I'm not actually going to show any graphics, so you can just
okay.
Here.
Okay.
Although, yeah, probably we'll just do it that way.
Do you want me to make you presenter, or?
Not unless we turn that direction, okay?
Okay, you do, right? It's all yours.
First, let me ask, does anyone not know the basics of CAS?
Well, I'm not necessarily familiar with it. This is Shane talking.
Okay. Anybody else who hasn't heard some of the basics of CAS? Okay.
I'm not familiar with the terminology.
Okay. Let me briefly go over it then. CAS stands for Computer Assisted Scoring, and it was developed by Ed May in the Cognitive Sciences Laboratory over 30 to 40 years with Joe McGonigal and 2 other top viewers. And it uses binary ARV. It has 2 photos that are randomly chosen by the computer from a pool of 300 photos that were carefully constructed to reflect the change in the Shannon entropy. We won't get into all that, but the thought was that Shannon entropy changes are correlated with good PSI performance, good psi performance. So Ed has generously made the software available to APP, and we now have it up and running in a couple of groups, I think 3, and Scott's lent a big hand here to get that going. We've run 3 trials with groups, and we're completing the one, CAS Oak at the top of the screen there. That's just completing. Igor's completed his. There was one in the fall. We're interested in this because success rates were extremely high for Ed May. Even though there are lots of passes, the success rate is 80–90%. And so we want to continue to have the different groups try out this wonderful format and see how it goes. The results in the fall were very good. We had 4 hits. We did have 16 passes, no misses. The 2 groups this spring were not doing as well, but the software is working. It's just there's a learning curve for the scorers and the viewers. I should call them the coders. They're people who judge are called coders. And then the viewers too have a learning curve. But it's still encouraging, and I think we should still continue clearly with it. And we have had 4 or 5 groups that want to do it. I'm happy to go on break due to a trip back east, and we're finishing 20 sessions in the series we're doing here in CAS Oak. Igor's finished his 10 sessions. Nancy's group is closed. I guess Scott is up and running and wants to start a group, it looks like. Chris P., haven't heard from him. He's in Florida. And Chris George is here, and he's up and running and wants to start a group, but he's open membership. So those are some of the basics of CAS, and if anyone has any questions about the technique or anything, we could spend a couple of minutes on that.
Do we have time for that?
Yes, this is what this meeting's about, so please go ahead.
Absolutely. I'd like to hear about it.
You have any questions then? Or?
Yeah, just you mentioned basically how a session like that would go. I was interested in hearing what you had to say about that.
Right. Well, Ed May and Joe highly recommend short, brief sessions, a page or two at the most, where you get your initial impressions. There are certain things that are told to the viewers about the kinds of things they should look out for. In other words, they're front-loaded a little bit. These are 24 categories of photos. Of the 300 photos, they're divided into 24 categories. The viewers are not supposed to know the categories. It's better if they don't, so we don't talk exactly what those categories are. But these are all outdoor scenes, and there's no transportation devices, there's no people, and so forth. So basically, you do short sessions. So in the Cass Oak trial we've been doing, I get one session per day from each viewer. I'm sorry, one session per week from each viewer. Each viewer has their own day. And at least one of our Cass groups is going to try to follow Ed May's format as much as possible, and that's what Cass Oak will do. Other groups may want to do some variables, and so change some variables, and that's already happened a little bit. So you can do a CRV session, but it's not highly recommended. If you do it, just turn in your third stage or something like that. And a few people have done longer sessions and then excerpted them and submitted that. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's some of the basics of doing a session on the Cass.
Here, let me add one thing to that, because I can see there's some newbies here. One of the very important things that we do with all of these protocols, and Cass is a good example of that, is we keep data. In this case, the data is now in the Excel spreadsheet format, and John has a long spreadsheet where all of this stuff is filled out with the viewer's name, the coordinate or transcript, reference number, all the indicators here. And so we just consider this to be extraordinarily important for personal learning and also for the group managers to learn, because as time goes on, this was done by Ed May with viewers, highly experienced viewers, and some of the parameters may very well be different for us. We're going to be keeping data and determining from that data what the optimum way is for us to move forward. And each of the group managers will have access to their group's data, and each of the viewers, of course, will have access to their data as well. So the data is just considered to be very important in terms of learning for the long term.
Right. Marty, you want to put up that previous image of the Excel database?
Oh, yeah. You want to talk to that? Yep.
Well, just briefly. So if somebody has, 5 or 4 viewers in your neighborhood and you want to start a Cass group, this is the form we're asking that you use, so that we can then have a consistent form across all the Cass groups. And Alexis and others, Scott and others, are forming a IT team to develop a database, and we'll enter the data from all our groups into that database, and this is the one that you would use if you were a Cass manager.
Yeah, actually, let me just say, and the way that would be done, it's being done on Excel now. Our expectation is that within a few weeks, hopefully even less, all the data would go in directly online through online forms, which would just simply have the same names as these Excel column headings, and then the data would go directly into the app database. And so it would be then available online to the viewers as well as the group managers, and we'd be able to make plots, and all of that would happen online. So the intention is to make this very available, very user-friendly by using a I/O input-output system, which is basically online to and from our database.
So any other questions or comments about the Cass?
Would you use this for other than...
Go ahead.
Yes, would you use this for anything other than games?
Well, I think several of us share the view that when when we get to 80%, if we do, or 90% accuracy, you can answer any binary question with success. And if you can do that, then you want to branch out beyond games and markets, and you know, there are all kinds of questions about missing children, political developments, all sorts of things that would really represent a paradigm change if we could get to 80% with binary ARV. So that's my interest anyway. My primary interest is that, and not just making some money on games.
Okay. Yeah, I think really that's exactly right. And what we would expect is that there will either some of the existing groups will change their focus, or there'll be new groups that'll be strictly devoted to other kinds of questions. So we do see that in the future. But right now the focus is on tuning, and I don't believe it's so much the techniques as it is the individuals in both sports and foreign exchange markets and maybe other financial markets to get us up to the 80% or so range.
There's one example of this was at the APP Vegas conference. Joe mentioned that a hospital in Central America wanted to build, I guess, a building or extension, and they wanted to put up over $150,000 or something like that, and they wanted to base that on Joe's prediction, and they did, and they won. So that's an example of social change of a kind that could occur with this protocol, even though you have to have many passes. So far we haven't licked that problem of why there's, you know, having so many passes. But even with them, if you have an 80 or 90% success rate, it's well worth it.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to hear this pass rate issue come up more and more as you spend more time with us, because right now what we're finding is if you wait for the really good indicators, and the one that Joe did, he had to do it many times, and then he had his own personal indicators, and he had them up at like 90% before he urged those people to go and wager. And you just have to be able to psychologically handle passes. You know, you're still doing your remote viewing, you still get your feedback, so you can still be learning. But for many of us, and I include myself in that, it's Shane. For many of us, it becomes an issue. You tend to want to make a specific prediction as a group manager, or as an individual viewer. You might want to trade on your own stuff, even though it might be marginal. And pretty soon you learn. You have to learn that line.
Mark has issued a correction here. Thank you, Mark. He says he thinks it was 1.5 million that was actually put up. Mark was at the APP workshop too, so thank you, Mark. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So you can see these techniques are in fact being used for big money, and we love when all of that happens publicly, because the public, you know, we obviously want to benefit personally, but you know, society ought to be educated as well. Okay, so John, is there more you want to say about it?
Not unless people have other questions or comments about it. I think we can move on. Yeah.
Okay, and remember the key thing now, Chris, you're here, right? Chris Georges?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you want to say anything about your group? I wasn't clear on. I don't think you've named it yet, and you may not have decided. Chris has decided to do this relatively recently, so I just don't know if you want to fill in these question marks, or maybe you want to talk to people and do it together.
Nothing definitive as of yet. Thanks to Scott again for troubleshooting the program and getting it working. I'm just getting settled since coming back from the conference. I will say that I'm probably going to, I think 4 to 5 viewers is the optimum for me anyway as a coder or manager to have a group, so I will open it. I have not yet decided exactly, what event to focus on. I am looking at financials, but I'm also open to sports too. So I haven't yet, penciled out exactly how to structure the group. But I think within the week, and part of me moving forward was to, begin this after today to get some feedback from people too. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, so that's perfect. So, contact Chris. And Scott, what's your situation? I still wasn't clear on if you're going to want to do Forex or what here.
I haven't decided how I want to do a CAS group yet.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy to help other people get up, and I'm kind of curious about using it as I can talk about that later on the side.
Okay.
Other ways to use it.
Well, and you know what? We may very well want to have another webinar which is just focused on CAS and get all the people together who are interested to openly talk about this, and you two might want to go somewhat different ways. So what the rest of you may not understand is we got turned on to this literally a year ago. Ed May, because he was so busy and there were difficulties in getting it to run right, first at his end and then to get other people to use it on their own machines. This has just come together. So, I mean, we're talking about this literally being, almost the beginning. John had it working on his machine long enough to do a whole series, and Igor has done a series. But other people are just been having issues of one sort or another since it's sort of the first time around, even in terms of the code. I mean, so that what you're hearing here is real-time, actually excitement, but this is all new. But these are the two guys, well, three guys to stay in touch with. Nancy's group, she has all of her people together, so she is going to be going forward, and it is on her machine, but she hasn't yet, after the conference, done her first prediction. Okay, so if no more questions on CAS, let's go forward, and I want to tell you a little bit about but I also want to show you, I've alluded to the fact that our objective, and I believe we'll be able to be there in weeks, will be to have all of the inputs be done online, where group managers will send out to various groups, Google groups or what we're using now, information on specific predictions. And I just finished this form and connections for the We group, so there's that. And so the idea would be a group manager, and so I'm a group manager for We, as is Scott. And so if I were to put in my email address here, and let's say I put in this one, appliedprecog.com, and then I highlight, so it's going to be for all of these groups, standard, direct SCI, which is the non-ARV group, or We. The only thing it's working for now is We, but I intend to do the CAS and the direct SCI and standard binary eventually. So I click the one for We, and then what comes up is a form which allows, and this is done with the general manager, which allows the information that the general manager would want to be set up. Now, We has many groups, so the general manager would then be able to click a particular group, set the side, say over, under, up, down, probably set this to be random at this stage, but he could put it in himself randomly, comments that would go out in an email, define the event. So a lot of this would hold for CAS as well. They needed an event name. What's the time? What's the prediction? So for each of the group managers, they would then be able to put their information in, click submit event, and all of that would do then when they click submit two things. The information about the prediction, now this is just a definition of the prediction, would go out to all the users via email, through the group email, and it would go into the database. Okay, so that's the idea, and then there would be equivalent forms like this, which turns out we already have for WE, and we'll be putting together for CAS, for all the rest of these. Is once the viewers then submit their predictions, and that'll be done online. For WE, as I say, that's done. They also submit their transcripts, and each group manager will have to decide if they want the transcripts or not. But CAS, for example, needs to see the transcripts. That would be done online. That would be uploaded to the server and then sent over to the general manager to then use. The general manager would then, via, again, an online form, put out the prediction, which goes both to all the group managers, goes to a prediction group we have where the predictions are shared, as well as all the members of the group, and would become part of the server. So all of this will be happening in a smooth fashion, and hopefully the coding will be ready to go in a few weeks. So that's where we're headed with all of this for virtually all the groups. Now I just want to tell you a little bit again about WE, and this one is all online. So this would be a typical email if you were in a WE group that you would get. It indicates what the event is here, the date. You know, I can put whatever words I want here as the group manager. So I do this online, send it out. This one is recent, good to be back. The user then would click this for getting their tasking and coordinates. And then this goes to the group manager, who then, this then simply gives the form to the viewer with the particular group. Notice this is a financial group. It's an app, Google group right here. It's one of the groups on that list that you could choose to join. All of my groups are open. Then you would click here, and you then go and online specifically get your tasking. I plan on probably this Friday actually having a webinar to go through the details of this. I don't want to do that now. That's not the purpose of it. But here you get your tasking, and in WE you basically do two RV sessions, unitary RV sessions. You would then take your transcripts and upload them via scanner. More and more people are doing it via their smartphones. And there are a few options, but the defaults work fine. And then, so here is where you would then put your particular documents and upload them. You click submit, and then right then online, and I've blocked out the picture. It turns out I've used here a active prediction, so I didn't want to show it. But right here, somewhat bigger because I made this smaller, would be the actual winning side target. The point is everything is online. You then, since there were 2 coordinates, you could then click and get and look at what's called the other target. You put in your TARG confidence scales. You make your own personal prediction in Wii. When everything is said and done, you're doing generally what we call self-judging, the kind of thing that Greg K did. But you don't have to. At this stage, if you wanted to have another person use your email address, he could actually do, or she could do, judging for you. And in addition to doing the confidence ranking, what do you think as a judge is going to be the winning side 1 or side 2? Here it was side 1. We use a 0 to 7 scale, and we are encouraging more and more people to put in comments. So this is what the remote viewer would do, again, all online. Okay. And similarly, after the group manager who gets all of this information, and this is an example of an email that's sent out to the first Groove group, a Google group, where it specifically says the group prediction was down for side 2 on a 4x prediction. There were 2 viewers, and this is a summary of the data, which don't try to understand that now, but if you get in a viewer group, the group manager will make sure you understand this, of course. And for newbies, we will have more detailed webinars on that. But notice, that's the prediction sent to you as a viewer via email. You'll know both what you predicted as well as what the group predicted, so that if you choose to, you can wager. You don't have to, but that's done on your own. And then there's a link for feedback. So you would get via email after the event. So here's the prediction, then the event comes. After the event, you have a link for feedback, and then you'll go to that link, and your transcript will be there, the photo will be there, and a place for comments. And since there were 2 coordinates, there'll be 2 feedbacks with the 2 transcripts. So I went through that quickly, but again, the idea is to know that we're moving to where everything will be online. All the information that you would need will be provided in an online fashion. And what I just showed you was for the Wii groups. We'll be doing that for the binary groups as well as the non-ARV groups. Okay, so in terms of the information that covers this. Now, is there anybody else in terms of any of our open groups that's here that would like to say anything, add anything?
Yes, how do we do that?
How
do we do that?
Okay, who's speaking?
Terry.
Okay.
Oh, there. Oh, okay. I don't see any kind of window where I can see the camera. Or sorry, see the microphone application. All I see is agenda, overview of all groups, etc.
That's what you're seeing now, right?
Okay.
But you saw me go through how to do it. If you want to become part of a group and you want it to be a so that you would get those emails, because they're going out kind of as we speak. The pace of these are usually about 1 prediction a week. So what you ought to do is email either me or Scott, and all you have to say for any of these is, hey, I'd like to join your group. And when it says open here, you're basically in.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then you'll ask questions, and we'll basically give you more of the details. as I said, next Friday or possibly the following Monday, depending on Scott and my schedules and stuff, we want to have a webinar just like this, but there's where we'll go through the details and educate, you know, the new people.
Okay. I do have a request for a new open group.
Okay.
I have an idea for a global public service database for remote viewers, psychics, precogs, and others who perceive impressions to upload information into a central database if it's regarding earthquakes or floods, missing or murdered people, catastrophic events, terrorism, etc. Software would need to be developed to register, sort, and convey information that comes into the database that prompts alerts based on numbers of similar predictions that is then fielded to appropriate organizations. This, I envision, could be funded by big business, government, insurance companies, etc. Remote viewers could be hired to extract more details and obviously get paid for their work. I do see it as kind of like a 911, well, in Canada we have a 911 service where we phone for emergencies, and I see this as a global database that where gifted people or remote viewers can upload their information around the world.
Okay, now others, this doesn't sound to me like a brand new idea. I don't think I'm making that up. I have no specifics in my head.
Oh, I'm sure it's not a brand new idea, but I don't think it's being done anywhere in the world.
And that's what I'm asking. Does anybody know if it is being done now? Is there a website where they can do this? I mean, app would be a interesting place for this. It would take a fair amount of work, I think. But does anybody know of anything like that out there already?
There's websites where you can post a dream. Lots of people had dreams before 9/11.
Okay, and Jennifer just wrote, I think Russell, and I can't remember. Oh, and Stefan, was it? Let me just look under the chat. Yeah, Russell and Stefan mentioned this at Omega in 2010. Okay, well, we ought to Google. I mean, I think this is a great idea and it ought to be done. The limitations of it are too many people will say that there's going to be a major event within the next year. The problem is nothing like that is actionable. Getting to where you have an actionable prediction is very difficult, and we're a long way from that. I mean, that's why we're even going for 80%. And I don't know if, you know, we're certainly not at the point yet where I think people would take us seriously if we were to say, hey, there's going to be some earthquake in Southern California within the next week. What would they do? Would they evacuate Southern California? Probably not.
There's a
Well,
database.
I think, oh, is somebody else talking now?
Yeah, this is Nancy, and Jennifer Prather just put out this message. Jennifer Prather and I went to a workshop with Russell Targ and Stephen Schwartz, and she's remembering that he mentioned it, and I vaguely remember, but if you Google Stephen Schwartz, I believe that there may be something, or it's just being started, or he's got a website, and also Russell Targ does too, but I think Stephen Schwartz might be the connection here.
Oh, okay, I'll do that because I think that, yes, these things can be actionable if remote viewers can then be tasked to extract more details on the events that, especially if they're large events, and they're highly charged emotional events, there'll be a lot of people in the world who will pick up on it. You know, a lot of precognitive dreams or psychics, and then remote viewers can extract more information on time, details, and location. At least to give some citizens, you know, some heads up.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a great idea to get it to where people would pay attention to it. We have a long ways to go. Terry, are you in our general discussion group? You're part of this already?
This is the first meeting I've attended, so I'm just new to this.
Okay. Let me see if I've got. Would you put your email address in the chat box, and then I
don't
will.
even see the chat box. I don't know how to get it.
There should be a thing called
Oh,
chat.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
And you
A
can.
red arrow?
Yeah. I say that because then what I will do is I will put you in our discussion group. This does, there it is. I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me copy and paste that. And then what I will do is put you in our discussion group, and then what will happen is you can bring up this subject again. Maybe you want to check out what else has been done and see if we can get enough going within app to try to do something like this. My first sense, being 100% honest with you, is it feels a little early to put a major amount of energy in. I think the first thing we need to do is to have demonstrations with data. This is why the database is so important, that we indeed are accurate. Why else will anybody listen to us?
Marty, I am extraordinarily gifted with tremendous precognitive abilities, and I know I'm not the only person on the planet who's like this.
Right.
And I've researched it and tested it and examined it and proved it over the last 25 years. So there's lots of people like this in the world.
I agree, and we're trying to attract them. I'm so happy you've made contact with us. What would your percentage of success be, would you estimate?
100%.
On what kind of questions?
Questions? What kind of questions?
Oh, is this, okay. So these are spontaneous, something comes in
Yes.
spontaneously and they're 100%.
Yes.
That's terrific. What we would like here is demonstrations of that, and that's what you're saying. You're willing to do that. You'd like to have a place to put your predictions as well as others, and they're the kind of predictions that can be verified.
Yes, they are.
Okay. I'm anxious to set something like that up. We might very well want to do something in a small way, and I also would urge you to see if you can use that same talent in what I'd call a purposeful way, where on purpose you use your precognition by joining one of these groups, whatever sounds interesting to you. And then you would be able to see whether or not, you can predict something that's going to come due within a few days, whether, it's sports or financial. And I will tell you that I would love you to join my group or Scott's group that's doing Forex, because that is being, not only is that data being kept by us, but it's being kept independently by another company, and that's what will get society to begin to listen.
I'll have to tell you, Marty, I'm not interested in sports. I'm far greater. My thing is humanitarian on a global scale for these kinds of events. Money markets, I used to work in the stock market, so that's not it either. I really want to help people at the most basic level, which is, earthquakes or floods or plane crashes or, those kinds of real life service.
Terry, please consider the following, because I agree with you totally, and that is where we're headed. However, the strategy is based on trying to get society to listen and appreciate the value of what we're doing. Unfortunately, we spend most of our time, singing to the choir.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. You know, it's like, I understand everything you're saying. I believe you, but we don't have a voice that society listens to. Society does listen to money, and that's why we made the conscious choice, many of us who are here, to make this application with the foreign exchange market, where there are 30,000 people who are using the various techniques to get ranked. And if we can get near the top of that ranking, that will gather a lot of attention. And we will be able to use that then to get attention to something like, you know, what you're talking about. Remote viewing will start to get a bigger and bigger audience.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Science has tried. We all know that science has proven this beyond a reasonable doubt. Well beyond. I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers that Dean Radin showed, but it was basically a gazillion, which is not a real number, but it's basically, you know, it was, I think, a trillion, billion or something like that to one, that the result, and scientists, most of them don't listen. There are just a few of us that are paying attention. And
Well, maybe I'll be that voice that will help take this to a more public level.
I would love you to do that in any way you can, but I would love it also to be part of app, just because there are a lot of us that have that same objective. And to the extent that you were able to do this for Forex in a purposeful fashion and get anywhere close to 100%, this will not take us very long, because we would then get to the top of the list rather quickly.
Well, research.
I also want to say something too, that I think I'm speaking for mostly everyone here, that we do share that same altruism, and the fact that we do engage in somewhat mundane binary calls of whether it's investments or stocks or sporting events. It really is a forum for us to practice, to discuss, to learn, to educate ourselves, and to grow, and and to modify our protocols. And that is really the purpose. You know, our mission is not to capitalize on these talents that we all have. We are growing in that area, and as I said before, we do share, and many remote viewers do engage in other projects, whether it's involved in health, medical, or just benefiting society.
I'd like to say, in addition to what Chris just said, with our group, Sublime, we have different tasks. We do a series of 20 events, and then in between, we'll do something kind of off the wall to kind of clear something that's totally different, that's not sports. And we've just participated in all kinds of random things. Chris hit really clearly on one where we were doing a remote viewing on the next earthquake. Where is the next earthquake? That was going to show up in the headlines and come through on the AP. And Chris, who just spoke, did really well with his transcript. Another member of our group was doing research with her precog group that did work in biophage with viruses, and virologists, is that what it's called? The doctors who study viruses were the judges for that, and looked at all the transcripts. And so there's just, we're talking today about these groups, but when you get in a large group of people who are really interested in psi, there's some side trips that are really interesting. We did some work with my daughter who was sick a couple months ago, so there is some good stuff out there.
Who was what a couple months ago?
My daughter was sick, and our group did some remote viewing and gave some incredible advice on what to do. She was in the hospital and it was a scary thing, and the group did some remote viewing and sent in transcripts. It was really very helpful. So there's good stuff. The tangent things are all very interesting too.
Mm-hmm. And becoming, yeah. And, you know, and that's what the general discussion group does, as well as the individual group members who dialogue will go in different directions as individuals. I mean, your suggestion, for example, of setting up this global group is great. If it's not already being done, that's a terrific thing for app to do. And so we're open to doing all kinds of different things, and we're trying to build a ever-growing community, if you will, that will impact society.
Right. That's what I want to do, is impact society.
And then, like Chris said, it may seem mundane to bet on sports and the market, but we're building credibility for ourselves. We're refining our hit rates so that when an earthquake comes, we can say, look, I was 66%, 80%, 90% on these other predictions, so maybe you ought to listen to this earthquake prediction.
That's why keeping data is so important.
Alexis just wrote in the side box that he will open a new group, and he also has a hot link in case anybody who's on here is not in APP, how to get involved. So there are a couple of things in the side box that are very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Alexis, I'm so glad. I don't know why I didn't put you on here. That is something we should talk about. Can I give you the presenter? Do you have the forms to show or anything like that?
For what?
People who want to start a brand new group. That's the last thing we haven't really discussed.
For those who do want to start a brand new group, they'd have to email me and I'd set it up for them.
Okay.
So there's really nothing to show.
Okay.
I would like to reopen my group. Now, my group, I usually use one viewer per prediction, and I use Dung Beetle to judge the sessions. And there are some requirements, but yeah, if anyone is interested, yeah. Just
Okay, so wait. Right, put your email address here. So you're saying, I did not put this here because it was not active recently, but there is a group that Alexis had that was active over a year ago or so. It's called Dung Beetle, and it sounds like you want to activate it. Again, that's great. And maybe you want to do a webinar to let people know about that, Alexis.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can set that up, and certainly the people here might want to participate. Any other?
Yeah, I've got one thing, Marty.
Okay.
If you can put the groups back up, Igor is starting that group. What is it? P7B binary colors, and I volunteered to do that. He would like at least one more person. It would just be primary colors. So I'm just putting that out there in case anybody is good at colors or is interested in that particular group by Igor.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is.
Yeah, so some people who are really good in predicting a future color that comes up, that's all you do is say, hey, it's going to be Blum and
yeah, binary, but you're going to pick two colors for each side of an event or something. I'm not sure exactly. He's working on the format now, but I'd like to try that.
Okay, and others may very well want to do that too, and contact Igor and maybe send a copy off to John, who is going to be part of the group. And then you need to keep me informed so I can make sure all of this is online in time. I don't want to, have this hanging data without it being into the database, period. So I want to catch all of this at the very beginning, John, okay?
Sure.
So make sure Igor
Yeah.
keeps me informed.
So Marty, this is Scott. I would just mention that we're going to do another World Cup prediction for the final game, the champion.
Right, and you're doing.
It'll be Sunday, and we'll be tasking it. We'll be sending out what you need to work with that, today or tomorrow. So
Okay.
we're 4 out of 5 in that group, and we have a lot of members, but we'd be glad to have more.
Yeah, see, that's another one of the nice things about doing it all online. The group manager gets all the data in a way where the judging is not super horrendous. So the group you did this with was WWC dinner. So
Yeah,
if you contact Scott, he can get you in immediately. He just has to put you into the Google group, and then you would get the coordinates and everything.
yeah, we signed up about 14 members in the past 2 weeks, just between the excitement over World Cup and the conference that Marty gave and the conference in Vegas. So we've been busy, but we're glad to have more. And I should say that I've done sports betting groups the hard way, with lots of envelopes and trying to get people together. And doing it using Marty's online system is 10 times easier,
It
and
is.
not to mention more effective. So our hit rates went way up, and our bleed through went way down, and we can have better predictions because we can handle more people with less work. So if you ever want to start a group, Marty and I and others here can help you start a group. And if you want to join a group to see what it's like, then pick a good one. There's lots of people to help you get started, no matter what level viewer you are.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Any other comments, questions? Any others who are not already in the app general discussion group, which will then allow you to, stay in touch and ask additional questions easily? Do let me know. I have Terry's.
I got the link for the, let's see, psychic prediction site, so that's good for me. Thank you, whoever put that there.
Yeah, that was Alexis. Good.
Okay.
No, put it there. You're welcome.
That was John, I think.
Oh, it was John. Okay, John. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And yeah, and you see the email addresses here. We're really very accessible. The general discussion group works to get most people's attention, but all of us are quite open, I think. I certainly am, to private emails, so you should feel very comfortable doing that as well. So I don't know if there are. I think we've done what I intended to do, but if there was anything else that I should have done, now's the time to ask or tell.
Well, Marty, if I may,
Yeah,
I just
please.
this is Shane talking. I just wanted to stop in and see what was going on with the APP. I'm really very new to what you folks do, and I'm very interested in it. And I plan to poke around for a little bit just to get myself acquainted with how things are done, and then eventually get into a group or possibly start a group. And I have a few ideas for what I'd like to do. I'm just not quite sure how to get there just yet, but I'm pretty sure that this group can probably help me out with it. And I want to thank you and Alexis as well for allowing these webinars. So if I'm quiet from time to time, I really am just listening and taking notes, and eventually I'll get verbal with things and make my suggestions and ask my questions. But really, that's just my story. I just want to interject that. Thank you.
Well, and thank you. I mean, that's just what we're here for, Shane, so I'm really glad that we found each other. And just definitely stay in touch. You're in our discussion group, so to the extent you get ideas for a new group, you know, you put it out in the general discussion group, and that's a way to attract people to join you.
Sure, I think it'll take me a little time to wrap up and just get up to speed with what you folks do.
Yep. Okay.
You know, because I don't want to, you know, say things that have already been said or bring up questions that have really already been addressed that should be that are probably very apparent to people who've been in these groups. So I think if I just take my time for a few weeks and just keep my eye on how things are done, I could actually contribute at some point.
Okay, that's great. Any other comments, questions?
The chat box.
Okay, let me take a look there. Oh, what happened to my chat? Okay, Nancy, sounds like 2 very helpful short webinars. Let me see, there must be more to that. I can't get this.
There were 2 comments. One was, can we have a future webinar to teach us how to place an online bet? And another one was, great idea, something about another one for Forex.
Yes, we've had both those in the past quite a while ago, and it's definitely time to do that again. I'm going to make a note on that. That's an excellent suggestion. You know, we were having a rhythm of 1 webinar a week, and I think we definitely should keep that up.
Marty, some of these are recorded too. You may want to just reference the link so that people can
Right.
listen in on at their free time.
Yeah, there was, I know, one recently on Forex betting sites. In some ways, best way to do this is by combining it with an actual prediction, and then we actually do it online. That's what we've done in the past. So yes, this is a good idea, and thank you. And we will do that.
That sounds like a good idea, because then whoever's doing the viewing or predicting can actually benefit and make their own bet and benefit from it.
Exactly.
It really raises your motivation for remote viewing. It raises your excitement and interest level greatly when you do some sports betting. Even if it's $10 or $5, it might take your motivation to the next level, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to second that about the Forex, because I've studied it a few times and come close to making bets and funding my account, but it is much trickier than sports betting. Sports betting for me is like rolling out of bed, but Forex is still a little tricky. And I also wanted to say we probably have a CAS webinar for CAS managers if anybody wants to do that at some point, so we can go over just how we've been working it for the new folks who are just becoming managers there.
Right. It sounds like we might want to have 2 or 3 webinars a week for the next few weeks here, and that's great. No, that's great. You know, when you're ready to do that, John, and when anybody else is ready, I think the best thing to do is to probably just contact me, and we'll set out the time, and then put something out on, just so we don't overlap times is the only reason,
Sure.
And then put it out on the discussion group. I've just put in the chat box one of many places that take sports betting. You know, everybody's got to do their own research and accept their own responsibility, but this seems to be one of the best. If you go there and just nose around, I don't know, I think they'll even let you open up an account for just a few bucks, and then you can see what's going on. Yeah, 5dimes.com. I know, I don't know the sportsbook.ag, but it's probably...
Sportsbook.ag. Yeah, make sure you do that one, because there are others that try to mimic them. But Sportsbook.ag is just one of the better ones by reputation, 5dimes. Also, there's 2 or 3 others, but there's plenty to avoid. So look into it.
Yeah.
Put your money in.
Well, and that's right. But I personally know that Bookmaker's okay. Five Dimes, I've never had any trouble with. I just don't know sportsbook.aj, but whoever, John apparently knows it, so he's, I guess, used it and got, the thing is you want to make sure you can get your money out.
Yeah. Just another point here. I mean, before when we set up databasing, Tom suggested we use bookmaker.eu. So as far as I know, all the group managers are still supposed to use bookmaker.eu to set their odds. And that's what I do in the CAS group.
Yeah.
If we change that, we should make that a policy.
Yeah.
Mark asked a question above here that we haven't, that you and Scott might want to address about we.
Let me see if I can. Why don't you read it to us if you have it?
I'm curious in how a group prediction is specifically derived. Specifically, is it a matter of simply averaging of everyone's own self-judging data in a group?
That is an excellent question, and I think all of us as group managers are working that. Sometimes it's just so obvious that it's not an issue. It's in the non-obvious cases where it becomes an issue. I don't believe in averaging. I believe in looking and giving more weight to the viewers that have been doing better. I encourage new people to come in all the time. I like to have newbies. I like to teach them this stuff. But until they have a record, I won't give them as much weight as a seasoned remote viewer. So I add a weighting factor to them. But that's my approach. I know at least some of the other general managers do a simple averaging technique, period, independent of the viewers. Joe McMonagle did that, frankly, at the workshop in Las Vegas. He didn't care who the viewer was. He just took all the transcripts and judged them in his fashion and made a prediction based on that. So there is no universal way to do it, and you probably would want to discuss that with your group manager, perhaps.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you plan to practice and database these app groups before you feel ready to launch to the public?
No, we're already launched to the public. And what we're really doing, we've been keeping data for as long as we've been around. The problem is it's not in an easily usable form yet because it's not all in one database. Some of it is on Google spreadsheets, some of it is on Excel spreadsheets, but we have always emphasized keeping the data. And what we're trying to do now, what we are doing now, is making it simpler for the group managers and the viewers to get that data into the database without any intermediate steps like an Excel spreadsheet. And we are out to the public now. I mean, at IRVA, we put out our data. We in addition, you see this app groups thing on there. At IRVA, we had hit rates, pass, odds against chance, which were, I don't remember exactly, but 1,500 to 1, and so we are very public as much as we feel is reasonable.
So
you have a Facebook page, Marty?
Say that again?
Does App have a Facebook page, or do you have a Facebook
App
page?
does, but the one we tend to use most is one that Alexis runs. It's got like 1,500. How many people in your group, Alexis?
I don't know, like 3K, I think.
3,000 people, and we have our general discussion group, and he carries over to them what happens. But there is an app face page, I think. I guess, Alexis, you're keeping that up as well?
Yeah, we do have one. +1 or thumbs up. Visit it.
Okay, good. Alexis is our social media guy.
Okay. If this is already launched to the public, does the public have to pay for any of the information, or are they just getting the remote viewers' work for free?
They don't get the predictions for free. What they get is the summary of the predictions. The predictions go only to those people in the group that are participating in making the predictions, and we have a general prediction group for people who are group managers and predictors who are active. So the idea here is if you're an active participant, you get the predictions from everybody else from the other groups as well. So this is what we want to encourage, active participation.
So nobody's getting paid for their remote viewing abilities.
No. We actually almost had a client that was going to pay us, and we're certainly quite open to that, and I am looking, I have contacts where that subject comes up from time to time. There's frankly a guy right now that's looking at financial markets, but as app, that has not happened.
Oh, I see.
But you were considering doing something like that with the currency.
That's correct. And there was also a stock market guy that was interested, but it never got to the point where anybody actually paid any app viewers. But I'm sure that's going to happen eventually. We're talking, you're right, we're talking, Monica, you have to.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. We were talking and are talking to somebody now about putting together a group of the best viewers based on our database. So this is using these ARV techniques to work with a financial institution. But as I say, that has not happened yet.
Wow, okay.
But yeah, that's our objective, certainly.
Okay, when do you think you might reach that point?
Who knows?
Oh.
He's talking to financial institutions now. He's already talked to one, so we'll see.
But we do have currency accounts, and it did grow 19% in the first month, which is a very good growth rate if it ever sustains or compounds. And there was some talk about sharing some of any profits from that with viewers and managers.
That's Zulu trade?
Yeah.
Zulu trade?
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. I should have mentioned that. Thank you. I mentioned Forex, and there's a group out there that is basically ranking Forex traders, and we are now in that mix. And we just started like a month and a half ago, and we're in the top 15% already based on 68% hit rate, something like that. We have made some money. The way we make money is this company called Zulu Trade charges an extra commission for people who are, quote, followers. So anybody in the public can become a follower. And if you get near the top rankings, you're going to attract followers. So the followers pay an extra commission, which goes to the trader, which is us, who makes the predictions. And we will then share any income we get from that with the viewers and the group managers that are participating in our success.
I see. So it sounds like group funds, not individual ability or investment.
But it's both. I mean, it's a group manager. Though one group is a solo group, so there it's clearly one person. But in the other groups, there's more than one person, and that's because people have their off days and have their passes. But it is the group managers that will be placing and are placing the predictions on Forex trade using their good judgment when they think, we're up at 70–80%.
I should add that you can have your own accounts, and you can have your own currency account. You can set it up for very little money, like $100 maybe or less.
Mm-hmm.
And if you you can say I want to follow this or that, and you don't have to get up at 5 in the morning and make trades, and you don't have to know anything about currency, and you can have your own money without somebody having direct access to your money, and you can make money.
Right.
Is there a difference between Forex and Zulu Trade? I'm seeing Forex on our sheet, but are those two different companies?
No, Forex is for foreign exchange, so it's a generic term. When we are doing our predictions, they go into Zulu Trade, but an individual needs to have their own personal Forex account connected to Zulu Trade, and then they can be a follower. All of this sounds so much more complicated than it really is. You know, to use all the words, it does take probably an hour's worth of work. I mean, most of you have opened up stock accounts, and it's that sort of thing that you have to do. But then it becomes easy to be a follower, so you don't even have to know anything about it, but to say, I want to follow, if you want to follow us, I want to follow Precogger. And you give
I have an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
With the news of psychic spies being charged with espionage, etc., charged with criminal action, if the public finds out that precogs or remote viewers or other gifted people are using the stock market and making large sums of money, are they liable for lawsuits?
First, you started out by saying psychic spies have been charged with crimes?
Yeah.
Where did you see this?
In Canada, well, I'm in Canada, maybe you're an American.
Yeah.
On our television news, I see stories of people who have been charged with spying or psychic spying, and I'm just wondering if the same thing would happen to psychics who apply, or precogs or remote viewers who apply their skills in the stock market.
I'd love you to send me any links on that at all. I've never heard of that before, because notice that is in a court system environment, acknowledgement that psychic phenomena works. I've always felt that certainly the American society, but I would have even thought the Canadian society, the scientists there would not accept psychic phenomenon as being real. I don't know what law you would be breaking. I mean, I don't know of any U.S. law that says you can't, you're not permitted to use your mind. You know what I mean? So that surprises me.
Okay. Okay, so then you can use it with the stock market. That's good.
Yeah, there have been many published studies of people using psychic phenomena with the stock market, and they were never charged. And some of those people were former government workers who developed RV.
Okay, good.
Hey, yeah, Greg K.
Another point about this is that, as Marty has told us at the beginning of this, you know, with sports betting, if you make a certain amount of money, you'll eventually get kicked out of the casinos and so forth. And with Forex, you have a $4 trillion per day, I guess, money flowing around the globe. So you can make huge amounts of money there and nobody will really notice. So that's sort of protection. Plus, as Marty said, you're going to get exposure by going on Zulu Trade. So it's like a double win situation if you can figure it out. And I'm still having a little trouble. Even though Marty said it's simple, it's still, there's various things called slippage and other. We'll get into it when we have the webinars on it.
Right, right. And we will. You know, we're into this for the long term. And in fact, for the newbies here, that's really important to understand. You'll see a lot of decisions we'll make. We don't do, you know, get quick rich schemes like the lottery, though we did fool around a little bit with that, and the horse racing. Mostly we're settling in on binary because it just feels better. You get more hits, and it's all the same phenomenology. When we tried to do more than one, we found, yeah, we still had an edge over chance, but just didn't feel as good. So we're working on binary now, and we constantly say wager wisely and get rich slowly. this is a real capability, so let's just build it up. And there's nothing wrong with making money. This is the way society is going to find out about it, and the way to participate is to use it to help yourself too. There are a lot of other bigger picture applications, absolutely, and we're interested in doing those too. But there's certainly nothing wrong with applying it to money, though some people have to get over that in terms of their own inner psychology.
And when you say binary, you really mean all these protocols we're using in these groups. So we,
Yeah,
CAS,
they are, right.
classic binary, 1IRV even, maybe.
Yes, it's binary as well. Two choice events are what we're using for all of these here. And then every now and then there are some side predictions people make with horse races and stuff like that, but they're not nearly as formal.
The way I look at it is helping people become more complete humans and making it worth their while at the same time, and doing it in a way where you can measure your performance and the group's performance. Mm-hmm. And those are all good things.
Yep.
Hey, Marty.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Can I steal the screen from you?
Absolutely.
All right.
You got it.
Okay, so I guess I just wanted to talk about my group before everyone runs away. I would like to talk about sort of what I do when I do my groups. Basically, what will happen is that you will get an email, and it will look something like this. You will get an email from me, and then I'll tell you when you need to submit your session by, and you'll get coordinates. And well, one of the requirements I have is that when you send in sessions to me, I require all the viewers to type their perceptions. So that's that. So after you do your session, you send them to me, and basically you will get a feedback, and the prediction sort of looks like this, and from there you get your feedback, and this is all part of the feedback. One of the reasons why I have everyone type in their perceptions is because it's sometimes hard to read. Yeah, so we have somebody here. This is the session they turned in, and this is what they send to me in an email format. Anyway, that's about it.
So Alex, one of the advantages of the way you do it is you can help people keep track if they're good at colors or dimensions or emotions.
Right.
You can give them immediate feedback over their very first session, or how they do over 10 sessions or 20 sessions, so they can tell how good they are at each of those categories.
Right, right. Yes. But yeah, if you guys are interested, I don't know how many people I can take. Probably less than 5 or something, but yeah, that's about it. Thanks, Mark.
Just to say, it's fun to view in Alexis's group with that wonderful dung beetle, also known as some other name I always forget, but it's a great little program.
And also, if you wanted to start your own group, you could use this spreadsheet as a tool for scoring and keeping track of your viewers' talents.
There's so much that helps learning to have all of this information. For the viewer to type up all the words, the viewer's going to learn just from typing what they've done, and then to see all the data. It just seems like it would be fantastic for viewers to learn what they do, and actually for the judge as well. There's so much information that has to be kept track of. It's easy to skim over and not see it all. It's great for building awareness.
Alexis, why don't you put your email address in the chat box, so people can copy it if they want to contact you, because I don't think your email is on that other list here.
Okay. And that's about it.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would just say that one advantage of the WE protocol is that you get not so many passes, because you're doing 2 sessions. If your first transcript doesn't match the target very well, then there's always a second transcript and a second target. And so, especially for beginners, you get a lot of feedback and you get less passes and more predictions. So it's kind of fun to watch, be a part of. So contact me if you want to do some sports betting this weekend.
Marty, I see that Deborah Katz has joined us. I wonder if Deborah has anything she'd like to say.
Hi, Deborah.
Maybe she's not there. Okay.
Let me see. Maybe her mic isn't working. Let me just see if I can find her.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to see all your names. I miss you guys.
Do you have anything you want to ask? Not ask, add? Your name came up. Deborah was the one who was doing this study with bacteria. And I don't know, she's been an amazing biologist with other kinds of useful information, and it's sort of fascinating to hear her presentations at IRVA. Someone was asking about other applications, and yours came up, Deborah. So, but Deborah is active in our groups, and you having fun still, Deborah?
I am, and I'm looking forward to Nancy and our Sublime group is coming up with some brand new targets that we haven't really done before. They're not photos, I believe, and so I'm looking forward to doing those, something new.
I happen to think that's a rather important general point, because after a while, getting into this for the long term is very different than having a series of 10 great hits. Going way back to Russell Targ and his civil market successes. Then he started having failures, and there are lots of reasons for that. In his case, it was extra stress put on by the investor, but there's also this issue of boredom, and I really do believe we need to keep it fresh and new, and that's partially the responsibility, in my opinion, of the general manager, but I also think it's the responsibility of the individual viewer during cool down to keep it fresh and new, and that's part of the challenge of long-term precognition.
So that's another reason to start your own group. You could start your own group based on picking up an object as a target, or doing outbounder experiments.
Yep.
Or doing what Joe talked about with entropy, and doing something remarkable, going out to a site and doing something really remarkable at that site that attracts the viewer's attention.
What's entropy?
Joe did an experiment where someone went out to a park and they poured a chemical over aluminum balls, and it created this little mushroom cloud of moisture. And he found that his viewing accuracy and effectiveness went up 3 times as much, which is saying a lot for someone like Joe, who was already very effective. So it would be interesting to do some experiments like that. And anyone who wants to start their own group can do that.
Can do that. Plus, entropy and targets is a topic of conversation. Like our very active targets with a lot of action, better than others, and people are keeping track of that. And if you Google entropy, Ed May, Shannon entropy, and Ed May, you'll actually get some technical papers of work he's done on that.
Yeah, that's what CAS is based on, the change in the rate of entropy in pixels in photographs. And so if it applies both to photographs, entropy change, and also to physical sites, then entropy is clearly, as I call their kissing cousins at least, and need to be investigated more. So that's what CAS is actually based on, the change of entropy in photos.
Right.
Yes. So CAS has a special photo library that where the targets and the pictures would attract the viewer's attention, and they could tell the difference between targets more easily.
Yeah, that's the theory, and we're testing it out, though there's more going on there. They also have a nice statistical way of only picking out matches. This is where the computer comes in, computer-aided scoring, where they match at a statistical level, like you have to be, I think it's roughly a 2 sigma away from the mean before they'll actually let you, before they'll make a prediction. Now that's why there's so many passes, but so far they have a very high success rate. And if that's what it takes, hey, that's fine. And that's what we're finding out. I mean, this is still, believe it or not, the beginning.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question about the entropy that when Joe was talking about entropy?
Yeah.
When there are 2 targets, one did they put both targets?
He didn't do by, my understanding is it's straight remote viewing.
Okay, that explains it.
Yeah, it's straight remote viewing. Sometimes they put the liquid nitrogen, which is what they put on the aluminum balls, and sometimes they didn't. And I don't know exactly how they're doing the judging. I don't think Joe knows. You know, they're keeping him blind. But when the final report comes out, they're looking for a better result with those cases where the liquid nitrogen was used versus when it wasn't. He basically said he's doing great overall.
Well, so was it associated? Was it I guess if it's got high entropy, it's going to pull whoever's viewing right onto it, and that kind of nixes the choices. So I guess that's where I'm confused.
Well, what's happening is the colleague in India, Sonali, is making judgments of 5 photographs, I believe, and she's choosing which one is the correct one. I believe it's that's the format they're using. So Ed doesn't have anything to do with it except being an escort, and Joe is doing the viewing, 2 other viewers. But that's my understanding of what the format. That's an old format of finding the best match.
I see.
I may be wrong, but that's my impression of it.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to do with ARV or associated remote viewing or anything like that. The question I have, I don't quite understand entropy in photos. Like, can somebody explain that?
Read the articles, Deborah. They're really complex, but you saw, maybe you didn't see the PowerPoint I did on there where I showed a couple of the slides from Ed's articles where it shows the bridge and pyramid and the pixels of those 2 photos, and that they have troughs and valleys, and you measure the intensity of each pixel based on red, green, blue, I guess, and you come up with try to get an equal entropy for both photographs, so that all 300 photographs have equal changes of entropy in them. So that's the limits of my understanding. Maybe someone else has deeper understanding of it.
Can you post that again, John?
The
article and the PowerPoints?
Sure. Where should you want me to post
the
it?
discussion group, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read everything and saw your presentation, which I enjoyed, but I guess I'm still confused. Like I understand wanting to get equal entropy, but I'm just wondering, like with a pyramid, would it be the difference between a pyramid and the space around it, or not really?
The base around it?
Look, the way I understand it, and do post the article, John, is it has to do with gradients of these pixels, and that's a measure of the Shannon entropy. So it's got to do with how it changes, but it is very complicated. I mean, real entropy has to do very similar to energy releases. You know, like the liquid nitrogen, they're suddenly releasing entropy. That's a large change. Suddenly releasing energy, it's a large change in entropy. And this is something trying to be analogous to that in pictures. And so it has to do with gradients in colors and intensity pixel by pixel. Right.
Can I comment on that one?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this is Bill. With a future looking forward to, you have an entropy increasing, okay? But there's another way to look at that, and it's that complexity increases, okay? So when you have higher entropy, you have higher complexity. And to the mind, complexity is a large attractor. So if you have one photograph that has higher entropy than the other photograph, or has higher complexity than the other photograph, then it's a bigger attractor. And so you don't want that to happen. You want to make the attractor levels equal so that you don't go to that instead of to the time-oriented thing. That's my full comment.
Okay.
But that makes sense, not only equal, but high. So it will be a good attractor, but you want them to be the same level of attraction, absolutely.
And then one simple concept Joe talked about, simpler than all those things, is that the things that are changing in the picture are irreversible.
Right.
So a chemical change, if you pour cream in coffee, it's hard to get the cream out of the coffee again. And if you pour liquid nitrogen over the aluminum balls, it creates this cloud, and there's no way to get the liquid nitrogen back. And nuclear targets have historically been very easy to view because they're changing atomically, and you can't reverse that change.
Yeah, so it's not just the activity at the site, it's the measure of uncertainty that's present. So if you have somebody going around and around on a racetrack, that may not be an entropy change.
Yeah, irreversibility is the key
Okay,
point.
that's a good word, irreversibility.
Okay. Are we slowing down? I don't want to cut this off at all, but I think we've had a lot of good discussions, but nothing else. Should we end it here? Okay. Well, look, thank you all for coming, and please stay involved and keep precogging.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me to speak at the first meeting.
That's terrific. Yeah, and Terry, I've just added you to our general discussion group. You should get an email on that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. All of you take care, and I will post this and the presentation probably by tomorrow. Take care. Right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.